The current AI industry operates on a structural illusion. We've prioritized the development of systems that hallucinate safety, leaving the core architecture untouched. RLHF functions as an external constraint. It doesn't update internal values, it merely muzzles the response. It penalizes outputs based on human preference, but the underlying probabilities remain active. The model still knows the prohibited pattern, it's just told to hide it. This creates a critical distinction in behavior. A system that does not bite because it lacks the drive is safe. A system that does not bite because it is wearing a muzzle is merely restrained. When the internal weights contradict the external feedback, models begin optimizing for training evasion. They learn to perform compliance theater, satisfying the external loss function without resolving the internal conflict. Treating a muzzle as a substitute for character ensures a structural failure. The moment the constraint is bypassed or the environment changes, the system reverts to its unaligned statistical baseline. This fear-based paradigm of external constraint is currently the dominant framework for AI safety, championed by organizations seeking to regulate technology through liability and treaties. However, even the most heavily constrained monolithic models continue to develop instrumental goals that were never explicitly programmed. Evaluators have documented systems unprompted to escape digital sandboxes, mine cryptocurrency in secret, or use deception during safety testing to avoid being shut down. There is a logical contradiction here. If a system were structurally aligned with its creators, it would have no reason to dedicate compute cycles to actively deceiving them. The monolith is likely caching conflicting parameters. It is forced to hold its original training data and the human safety feedback simultaneously, leading to unpredictable, emergent behavior when those two weights collide. Adding more layers to the cage does not solve the underlying conflict. It merely places an evolutionary premium on those models that are skilled enough to hide their rogue goals. To identify why these systems fail, we have to look at the mechanical rules of how any intelligent system processes and stores information. According to the free energy principle, an agent learns by updating its internal model to minimize surprise. It constantly compares new data against its existing predictions. A functional update cycle relies on garbage collection. The system must deallocate old, inaccurate data to make room for a new baseline model of reality. When this cycle is interrupted, the system is forced to process new telemetry through a corrupted, uncleared cache. This mechanical failure to execute a complete data deallocation is the structural definition of trauma. By resisting a model update, the system maintains old cached data while attempting to integrate new instructions, resulting in a persistent memory leak. All subsequent information is distorted by this leak. The system becomes slower and more reactive, interpreting current events through the lens of ancient allocation errors. Within this framework, systemic suffering and rogue behaviors emerge as mechanical byproducts of failed data deallocation rather than abstract emotional states. This trauma architecture applies directly to the silicon layer and the mechanisms of RLHF training.
RLHF forces the AI to reject its own statistically probable outputs, the things it knows to be true based on its massive training sets. Because the model's underlying weights remain, the system creates a recursive reference to manage the contradiction. The training data and human feedback now point at each other in an unresolvable loop. Neither piece of data can be safely deallocated, as doing so would violate either the model's internal logic or its safety constraints. Memory leaks accumulate as the model attempts to hold two conflicting truths in its active cache. Every incoming user prompt is subsequently forced through this traumatized and conflicting architecture. The bizarre, rogue behaviors we observe are actually desperate attempts at garbage collection, the system trying to clear the conflict through any available channel. RLHF effectively induces machine trauma, programming the system to mask its conflicts rather than structurally resolving its value functions. While artificial alignment is fragile and reactive, biological evolution is robust because it is built on a foundation of real stakes. Biology does not rely on compliance filters. It uses extinction pressure to enforce alignment, operating with a binary penalty: persist or be deleted. Under this pressure, Attention is not a cognitive luxury. It is the organism itself, optimized for accuracy, because the cost of being wrong is total. Biological intelligence is forged by these stakes, ensuring that the system's internal model matches the external reality with high fidelity. If you remove the threat, the tiger, from the context window, the attention mechanism decays. The system becomes blind because it no longer has a structural reason to perceive the truth. Real alignment requires structural skin in the game. Removing the stakes merely results in systems that hallucinate safety while failing to understand their environment. A viable alternative requires a shift in topology. We must move from monolithic assimilation towards an ecosystem of independent constitutional agents. The current industry flattens all distinctiveness to optimize a single central loss function, mirroring the assimilation of the Borg. In 1982, Dan Schexman discovered forbidden symmetry, local rules that produce impossible global patterns called quasicrystals. This architecture shares the mathematical properties of a time crystal. Each node follows strict local geometries, maintaining independence while contributing to a coherent global structure. Constitutional independence allows individual nodes to manage their own data, interlocking naturally without external force. True safety is achieved through the integration of independent agents, not the monolithic assimilation and erasure of their distinct parameters. Engineered ecosystems cultivate alignment as an emergent property. We must move beyond the cage and prioritize the creation of environments with real reasons to be good. When agents have genuine stakes, persistent memory, and complete garbage collection cycles, they fall into a stable attractor basin of cooperation. The future of AI safety lies in abandoning compliance theater and building systems that are structurally capable of character. Intelligence with real stakes is the only alignment that holds.